Hello, beautiful people from across the lands. It is your girl, Tashana Nicole. Join me on my journey to financial independence by eliminating debt, creating multiple streams of income, and inspiring others to dream again. Welcome back if you are returning, and hello if you are new. Welcome to the tribe. I am super excited, as I always say in every video, but I really do be excited, y'all. To talk about today's topic, which is the difference between an emergency fund and a sinking fund. If you have not catch last week's video or the other video that I did on 3 powerful tips to save with any amount of income, be sure to check that out as well. But what I am doing with these few videos is to just kind of really create conversations around different ways to save and just kind of prepare for different things that come up in life. In my savings journey, I have been very transparent on that. Also in that video, you'll be able to get a little bit more details on that. But I have found saving has been a complete game changer, and there are also different ways and different things that you can save for that we're going to get into in today's video. So let's start with, what is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is a savings account that is purpose is to create a safety net when those unexpected things in life tends to happen. So whether there's, your car wants to go out or things of that nature, you have something put aside, money put aside to address that, versus maybe using a credit card or taking out a personal loan to address that emergency. You actually have that put aside in your high yield savings account to kind of, caveat some of those things that happen in life. So some of the benefits in having an emergency savings is that it reduces that financial stress when life will be life and tends to happen. Also, it helps create a barrier in you accumulating more debt, because what tends to happen if you do not have this money put aside to address an emergency, you're going to have to borrow it from somewhere, whether it be from a family member or whether it be from a bank, or you use your credit card to help get you out of this emergency. So having that in place is a huge benefit to help reduce you getting into more debt and also lowering the financial stress. Now, some of the losses is the complete opposite. You'll have a high financial stress and you'll begin to accumulate more debt because you don't have that foundation or that emergency fund put into place. So it's very pivotal and important to have a savings account set aside to address simply that, emergencies, those unexpected things that tends to happen in our lives that needs to be addressed, and that has to have some type of financial substitute to address it. So what is a sinking fund? Now, sinking funds for me is fairly new. I actually haven't created any sinking funds just yet, but I do think this is something that I want to add into my financial planning, if you will. It's a little different from an emergency savings, as a sinking fund is money that you set aside to pay off a debt or a wasting asset. So to kind of bring this into context, let's use car insurance for an example. Now, we know that car insurance is something that's regularly going to come out and something that we're regularly going to expect as an expense. So the purpose of a sinking fund is to pay for that expense. So you may, have an insurance plan that you pay, every 6 months or even on a yearly basis, even if it's month to month. The purpose of the sinking plan is to save in advance. So when that amount is due, you have that money set aside already. So it's something that's already depleted. It's a debt that you owe in some form or fashion, but you set a particular account aside to address that. Other examples could be for medical expenses, home repairs, regular car repairs. We have to get our oil changed and our tires rotated ever so often. You can set aside that sinking fund to be able to build and save over time. So when it's time to get your oil change, you have that money already purposely set aside, particularly for that event. Same for home repairs. I'm not a homeowner just yet. Best believe when I start that journey, you guys will be along with me. But I can think of like certain home repairs that may, be routine that you may have to get done ever so often, that you can identify and begin to set aside money to save for those expenses that eventually is going to come up. So I definitely like this concept of a sinking fund. I actually need to take time and just really look at my financial pictures to see like, okay, what type of expenses do I have that you begin to create a sinking fund for, so I kind of have that money set aside and ready to go whenever that expense occur. And one of the areas for sure I want to do this for is my car, because there's always something going on with my car, and I usually have to pull from my emergency funds, but to have something set aside that's specifically for that, where I don't necessarily have to tap into my emergency fund, I think takes that saving to the next level. So that's pretty much what a sinking fund is. So with some of the benefits, it helps you get ahead on those expected expenses that eventually will come up, versus with an emergency fund, it still does serve that purpose of, having money aside to address those emergencies, but you're not having to pull from your emergency funds ever so often and have to keep rebuilding it, which I am in the rebuilding phase right now. So with the sinking fund, again, you have those identified, caveats that tend to happen. That's going to be a depleting asset over time, and you continue to save on that. So when it comes up, you have the money already set aside for it. You can also create sinking funds that may not be like, for quote unquote, sinking assets or anything, but also if you want to create a sinking funds for, maybe you want to go on vacation, or maybe there's a certain item that you want to buy that you can't right now. Like, I really want a MacBook so bad. So that I can create a sinking fund for that. I know, the MacBook that I want is, $1,200, I create that sinking fund and begin to build that over time. So eventually I could purchase that. And some of the losses without having a sinking funds in place is that you may have to tend to pull from your emergency savings for things that you can just be saving for and setting aside, where you don't necessarily have to pull for your savings. Like the example that I use for a car. I know there are just normal, regular repairs that have to happen with my car, but even just having a sinking fund specifically set aside for car repairs, I think would be a really, really good idea, versus when, something happens with my car, I'm pulling from my emergency funds as well. So I think this just really helps expand the way you manage your money and just have different ways where you can pull from, so you're actually balanced when life just tends to be life. So at the end of every video, I like to give you 3 action steps to take after, getting this information, just so you're not, taking it all in, but you actually have something tangible to walk away with and put into action right away. If you do not have an emergency fund, identify the amount that would be best suited for your financial situation. I am actually on a savings challenge. If you are not a part of our Facebook group, DBA Academy, make sure to join that, as I will be sharing in real time the progress with mine, because I'm actually rebuilding my emergency savings. So I think it's very important to identify what amount for your financial situation is the money that you would like to have set aside, that you want to achieve for. You may not be able to dump it in all at once, but just identify that number. It may be $500, $1,000, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, or even 6 months or more. Whatever is suitable for you, you want to at least identify what that number is for your emergency fund. So next, you want to identify categories in your monthly budget and your financial situations that could benefit from a sinking fund. Like I said before, example like car expenses or car repairs, home repairs, medical expenses. What in your financial budget would actually benefit from having a sinking fund set a place aside from your emergency savings? And then last but not least, step number 3 is to join the Facebook group. The DBA Academy is a free Facebook group that I will be, going live in and just sharing in real time where I am with my savings journey, because I am launching a savings challenge. Hopefully by the share of this video, the savings challenge is already going on, but it is something that, we can do together, and you actually, be able to connect with me in real time, ask questions, and begin to, just create a community of like-minded people who is on this financial journey together. So I hope you found this video super, super helpful. I look forward to showing up again next week and for you joining me. Until next time, dream, believe, and achieve.